Hi everyone, this is Jagjit, and today we're going to talk about derivatives and we're going to learn the power rule. Let's start off with a really simple example where f of x is 3x squared. Now if you want to find the derivative of this function, you just take the power of the x, which is 2, and you times it by the number in front. That gives you 6, and now you're just going to subtract 1 from the power and you end up with 6x, which is the derivative of 3x squared. So let's say f of x is equal to x and we want to find the derivative of this. So again, what's the number in front of x? When you don't see a number, that means the number is 1 and the power is 1. So we do 1 times 1, which will just be 1, and then you subtract 1 from the power. And anything to the power 0 is 1. 1 times 1 will just give you 1. Bottom line is derivative of x is 1. Now using the same concept, had I given you f of x is 3x and I asked you to find the derivative of that, it'll just be 1 times 3, which is 3, and then the power is going to go down by 1, so it'll just be 3x to the power 0, which is just 3. So moving forward, derivative of x is 1. Derivative of 3x is 3, and if you had any other number, derivative of 7x for instance, that would just be 7. Okay? Now what if I tell you that f of x is 5 and I ask you to find the derivative of this? Now 5 is just a constant, so you can rewrite it as 5 times x to the power 0, because x to the power 0 is just 1, and 5 times 1 would just be 5. So you do power times the number in front, and 0 times 5 will give you 0, and anything times 0 is just 0. So power of any constant, derivative of any constant will always be 0. Okay, why is that? Now if I have to graph f of x equals to 5, there will be a horizontal line at 5. And we all know another name of derivative is slope. And the slope of this horizontal line is just 0. Okay? So that's why derivative of any constant will just be 0. Now if I tell you f of x is 2x cubed plus 4x plus 5 and I ask you to get the derivative, we'll just find the derivative of each term individually. So for 2x cubed, we'll do 3 times 2, which is 6, and then the power is going to go down by 1, so it'll just be x squared. Derivative of this will just be 4, and derivative of constant is just 0. So the derivative of this overall equation is 6x squared plus 4. Okay? Now let's do some more complicated questions. If I had given you f of x is 5 square root of x and I ask you to find the derivative for this, the first step, we should always rewrite any square root as exponent. So x to the power, square root of x will be written as x to the power 1 over 2. And now to get the derivative, we use the power rule. And we do 1 over 2 times 5, which is 5 times 1 over 2. And now you're going to subtract 1 from the power. So that gives you 5 over 2. And half minus 1 will just be minus 1 over 2. Now, anytime you have a negative exponent, you can move it down. And the exponent is going to change sign, so it will become positive. And x to the power 1 over 2 can be rewritten as square root of x. Okay. Now if I tell you f of x is square root of x plus 3 cube root of x plus 2, and I ask you to find the derivative of this, you will first rewrite all the roots as exponents. So square root of x will just be x to the power 1 over 2. and this will be x to the power 1 over 3, and that's just 2. Now to get the derivative, we do power times number in front, which is 1 times 1 over 2. Now you're going to subtract 1 from the power, so it will end up becoming minus 1 over 2. Plus power times number in front, which is 3 times 1 over 3. We'll subtract 1 from that. Now 1 over 3 minus 1. You can think of this as 1 over 3 minus 3 over 3, which will give you minus 2 over 3. And derivative of constant is just 0. So we would bring this x term down, and the exponent will now end up becoming positive. This 3 is going to cancel with this 3. And this was x to the power minus 2 over 3. So when we bring it down, it's going to become x to the power positive 2 over 3. And we can further rewrite these as roots. X to the power 1 over 2, it's just square root of x. And whenever you get an exponent like this, the bottom number tells you the root, and the top number tells you the power of x. Okay? So that's how you would do a derivative involving square roots or cube roots. If I ask you to do f of x is pi x squared minus pi, and I ask you to get the derivative of this. Again, pi is just a constant. Pi is just 3.14. It's a constant, so no need to get confused over there. So we do 2 times constant in front, which is 2 pi. And then the power is going to go down by 1, so it will just be x. And derivative of this, which is a constant, is just 0. So your derivative is just 2 pi x. Now if I tell you that I have a volume which is a function of r, and it's 4 over 3 pi r cubed, and I ask you to get the derivative of the volume. Now this derivative is going to be with respect to r. You can think of this as dv over dr, and that would just be the same as what we normally do for power rule. Power times the constant in front, which is 4 over 3, pi times the power, which is 3, and then you're going to reduce the power by 1, so it'll just be r squared. And now these 3's are going to cancel, and you're left with 4 pi r squared. That's your v prime, your derivative. This is a simple question. If I ask you to get the derivative, the very first step is to rewrite this as exponent. So that will just be 3x raised to the power 1 over 2 plus 4. And if I want you to get the derivative, you do 1 over 2 times the number in front, which is 3 over 2. And now the power is going to go down by 1, so it's x to the power minus 1 over 2. Derivative of constant is just 0. In the next step, you can move the x down, and its power is going to change the sign. It's going to become positive, and you can further rewrite this as 3 over 2 square root of x, and that's your derivative. Alright folks, here's a tricky question. If I ask you to get the derivative of this, oftentimes I've seen people do, they would rewrite, they would say the derivative of this is 3a squared. And that is incorrect. The reason for that is, f is a function of x. So if you just see a cube, that means a cube is just a constant. Okay? F is a function of x, and over here we don't see any x's. That means a cube is just a constant, and we all know derivative of a constant, it's just 0. So be careful with questions like these. folks, let's talk about tangent lines. So if I tell you f of x is minus x cubed plus 2x squared minus 2, and I say find equation of tangent line at x equals to 1. Now guys, if I give you any graph and I give you a point and I ask you to find the equation of the tangent line, the slope of this tangent line, it's pretty much going to be the derivative at that point. The slope of this tangent line will be the derivative. So anytime they ask you to find the equation of the tangent line, the first thing that you need to do is you need to get the derivative. Okay? So we'll get the derivative of this function, which is very easy. That's just going to be power times number in front, which is minus 3x squared plus 2 times 2, which is 4. Power goes down by 1, which is that. And we want to find this derivative at x equals to 1. So you plug in 1 for x in the derivative equation. And that gives you minus 3 plus 4, which is just 1. And that's just another name for slope. Now when it comes to writing the equation of the tangent line, you can either write your equation as mx plus b, which is your slope intercept form, or you can write it as y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus